Welcome to today's video. This is my first interview in English. This is the first conversation of my new playlist, Behind the Scenes. Today, I'm excited to sit down with renewed illustrator and concept artist Keane. Claire has worked on a variety of projects, including illustrating children's books and creating concept art for popular animated films. In this interview, we'll get to know more about Claire's background, what inspires her work, and the creative process behind her stunning illustrations and concept artwork. So let's dive in. And please subscribe to my channel to encourage me to give you more interview in English. Thanks so much.
Lines, and now I'm good.
I know that with works family is not easy, so thanks again.
Yeah. What do you do in where in Italy do you live?
In Rome.
Oh.
I know you love Rome.
I do. I lived there for 6 months in Trastevere.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was in art school, and I just loved it so much. And I spent some time in Milan. Where in Rome do you live?
Across Rome, 5 miles outside Rome.
Okay.
So, but I worked in Rome because I worked for Disney for 14 years in stores, and now I think you know that they close all the stores in the world, and so my experience with Disney is finished. But I love Disney. I'm a Disney collector. I worked in Orlando in Walt Disney World.
Oh, really?
In Disneyland Paris. And so Disney is in my DNA.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. So you were working at the Disney store in Rome?
I worked in the Via del Corso. Remember?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know in which year you lived in Rome.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was
a
big Disney store there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
in a Roman style, was inside in Roman style with Mickey Mouse Emperor and Donald Duck. Yeah.
And what were you doing there?
I was a team manager, lead manager in the store.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so, what are you doing now?
Now I'm searching a new job, and
okay.
in this moment, in this moment I'm using my energy in my YouTube channel, and I record 255 interview with cartoonist and comic artist, Italian cartoonist and in comic Italian comic artist. But this is my first interview in English, and it's amazing that it's with you. And
I love it.
Yeah, because we and my wife, you are Disney collectors and Disney fan. But my wife, I think she is the first Disney Tangled the series collector in Italy. We have everything of Disney Tangled the series. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love
this is just one sample of our collection.
Exactly. Wait, where did you get that?
I don't know. My wife, she searched pieces all around the world. We have cups, we have straws, we have everything.
So cool. Wait, they're selling that?
Yeah. No, I think it's on eBay or used. Not sometimes they are not new, but we have. And also, she's a comic artist in Italy, and she loves your works so much, and she's trying to paint your work for the series on the wall of our daughter's room.
Oh, I love it.
So I have your
wife is a comic book artist?
Yeah, in Italy. Yeah,
Oh,
in Italy.
cool.
So
That's really
on the
great.
wall we have your works.
I
She's
love
trying
it.
to replicate your works, so she's your biggest fan, I think, in Italy.
Oh, I want to come see it.
Uh,
Have you interviewed Marco Regina?
no, no,
Do you know him?
no, no.
He's an animator. He was working at DreamWorks for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And now he's at Skydance and he's doing storyboard, but you might want to talk to him. I forget where in Italy he's from, but he's very Italian.
Okay, I can make a I can make
I'll
a
make
search
it.
on Facebook or on Instagram and try
I'll
to
introduce
contact him.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks again for this opportunity. And your granddaughter was a cartoonist. Sorry, your grandfather was a cartoonist.
Yes. Yeah.
Your father, we know who is and is a legend. And you could breathe art and you can feel art in your home since you were a child. How
Yeah.
was your starting in drawing?
Oh, well, it really was just kind of living and breathing it. I just remember coming home from school and just drawing my princesses and just families. I was always drawing families and moms and their babies, and
Yeah.
it's like basically everything I'm still drawing today. But I would wait for my dad to come home from work and ask him to like go over my drawings and like try to get an arm correct, or like I was always having a hard time drawing hands. And so it was great to be able to have him, and he was so encouraging, and he would just like be like, okay, well, this is, he would put a paper on top of the drawing and he would show me, he would correct my work, and it just was like, it always just made it look so much better. I was like, ah, and it just like made me like, it just like pushed me further. And
And it's very important because maybe you can say the work of your father and say, I can do this kind of beautiful drawings, and you use as a um, as a challenge to try to improve your drawing
yeah,
and to exactly. So
yeah, it didn't discourage me. I guess maybe because I saw how he was doing it, and I was like, oh, I can actually do it. Like that's something that I can do myself. And so then I would go and I would do exactly what he showed me how to do, and then I would do it again, and then I'd go to school and I'd show all my friends, and now everybody's like drawing faces from this like very like the same angle. Because then I was like, oh, I know how to draw a 3/4 face or like a head down, and so then all the girls in my class were drawing 3/4 faces, heads down.
but maybe of course your talent was already there when you start. The drawing maybe was not perfect, but your talent maybe was already there. Your father saw the talent in your drawing.
Yeah, I think so much about this idea of talent. I mean, I see it in my kids that there's definitely something that gets passed from parent to child. But I don't think that it's the talent. Just recognizing how it feels inside me. I feel like it's more like the passion or the desire to do something is passed on. And I don't know if that's something that you see your parents being like just naturally like liking something, and so then you just naturally like it, or if it's like something in your DNA. I don't know, but I kind of,
Maybe half and half.
maybe it is half and half. Like it's kind of like when you see your parents like really enjoying a certain food, then like you're more inclined to try it, or
Yeah.
and so I see I see that as being the talent piece that was just innate, and then having that passion and that desire to do the work then gave me the opportunity to spend probably more hours doing it than other people who have passions and desires to do other things. And I see it with my kids now. When they were born, they were just always, they've just always been drawing. Like, it's just a part of who they are, that they love to be drawing, especially my son. Like, it's just nonstop. The walls of my house are just like bursting at the seams with all of his drawings. I can't keep up. And you know, I noticed that when my daughter, she's 14 now, but when she was born, I had no time to draw. I was like, any time that I would draw would not be in front of her. I was like taking care of her. I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was doing all the things that's not drawing. And then I would see her just like naturally love drawing. And when I would pick her up from preschool, the teachers would be like, oh, you know, like Matisse is a really good artist. She loves to draw. I'm like, really? That's so like, and they would say it. I always thought that every kid just loves to draw, which that might be true, but I noticed that there are certain kids that really like to do it more than others. And those were my kids. And
so there is something in DNA.
Yeah, I think so. I really do think that it really was, because it's not like she was watching me draw and that she was trying to be like me. I was never drawing. Like, I didn't have time.
Was in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You think it's more difficult for a woman be a cartoonist or an illustrator? Because a woman has to cook, to make something for home, so it's more difficult for you.
Well, my kid's dad was very involved in helping out with that stuff. So that was, I think that I was lucky when they were young for that. But I would say that it's more just like, there's just the responsibility of the kids. It just always falls upon the women. And then you're also trying to do your career. And that is definitely two huge things. And to feel like you're kind of always torn between your own life path and making sure that your kids are like helping your kids pave their own path for their own way.
Yeah.
And so it's just in a way that I don't know if society expects that from men as much as women expect it from themselves.
So it was another challenge to continue to drawing and to pursue your career with the family.
Yeah, it really was. But it was funny because when I went on maternity leave, I mean, I didn't want to draw. I was just like, I just wanted to be with my baby, and I was just all consumed by her and this new life, in the good and the bad, you know. It was just it was all in. And then
it's a full-time work.
It really is a full-time work. And I started getting the more time that would pass, the more scared that I would become that I wouldn't ever go back to work. And that possibly after the 5 or 6 months that I had, I was afraid that I wouldn't know how to draw anymore because I wasn't drawing. Yeah. And but then I did go back to work, and I started having demands on me. It was when I was actually doing the Rapunzel's murals, and and I rediscovered my work in a way that was so much more, I mean, my work has always been all consuming and personal since ever. But in this way, it took on like a new meaning. Like, okay, my work is taking me away from my kids. And I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, that it will have some sort of feeling of contentment and satisfaction. And I mean, nothing's ever going to be as important as your kids. So like work could never be that, but it just felt like I needed to really like choose where I was putting my effort and my time. And it was shortly after that I ended up doing children's books. And actually the idea for my first children's book came from when I was nursing my daughter, and just like one of those like meditative states that you get in when you're nursing in the dark room. And
is it Once Upon a Cloud?
Yeah, Once Upon a Cloud.
Okay.
And I just had like this idea that came to mind of this girl that goes up to the sky and she meets the sun, the stars, and the moon. And it was just such a deeply personal moment. And then like at the start of work again, it just kind of like all came together, and it just kind of like powered me through. Like I just had to get it out. And that's that. I don't know. My work started taking a much more personal tone after my kids were born.
There are two different artists, before your kids and after your kids.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like when I first started working at Disney, like I would stay there until it was like 11 at night. I was just working, just like, and also not being necessarily any more productive, but I just like, I would spend longer on things, or I would come up with more ideas. But now with a limited time, I see that like I can kind of cut past a lot of ideas. I can just like skip over a lot of kind of fluffy stuff and get into the heart of it quicker.
Yeah, so it's really a different kind of work. After, yeah, exactly. I'm curious if I can ask you. At 16, you move with your family in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose was not easy for a girl of 16 change not city, not country, but continent, and going. In fact, France is beautiful and Paris is wonderful, but I think was not so easy.
Actually, it was. It really was. It was. I came from a really small town, a little suburb of Los Angeles, and the idea of going to Paris was like, yes, I want to go. And I don't know. I am kind of somebody that's a little bit more adventurous, I guess. Like my brother was 14 and he did not have that reaction. He was like, no way, I am gonna run away the night before we leave. Like, I'm not going. And I was like, yes, I can't wait to meet people in Paris. And it's just like two completely different personalities. But ultimately for both of us, when we went, it was just so wonderful. We ended up going to the American School of Paris, and we met a lot of people that were in similar situations as us. And it was great for me. It was like a great bridge for me to just start to get into this new culture in Paris and in France, and start seeing it from afar. And then afterwards, I ended up going to art school in Paris, which was.
And you had a lot of heart in Paris to study and to
Yeah.
and to visit in Paris. So
Yeah.
you came back more rich artistically in US when you came back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a really intense, I mean, it was the French system school, the art school was that it was pretty intense. Um, and they really, it was not a school that was in any way designed for people who wanted to be in animation. It was almost like frowned upon to work in animation. Anything that had to do with Disney, anything that was American, they're like, no.
I
And
know.
so, I'm sure maybe Italy has a little bit of that. I don't know. Do you, in Italy, is there a little bit of that culture? Like anything that's American, like no.
Yeah, I know because I worked 2 years in Paris, and when Disneyland Paris opened in Paris, for the first 2 years they had great problems because
Oh,
French people, they said, "Ah, American park, American things, American stuffs,"
yeah.
and maybe after 3 or 4 years, um, will be the integration between American park and French culture, but was not easy at the beginning when
Mm.
the park opened in 1992.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, I came right after that, and so I'm sure I
Yeah,
was dealing with like
yeah,
I guess the invasion of the Americans in France. um, but uh, but I'm really glad that I went through that because one, because I grew up with my dad who really, I mean, my whole family is like steeped in the Disney world, and you know, my dad worked at Disney, and it just Disney was a large part of our life, and it was really thanks to Disney that we were even able to move to Paris. But during that time, like I realized that having just another experience outside the American experience and beyond Disney was really important for me.
yeah,
And even if it was kind of said in this like really negative way, I think it's kind of in a way that's what I needed to really kind of be forced out to look at the other possibilities beyond animation. um, it's ironic that after that school I went directly into animation,
yeah.
but I I always knew though that there's more out there besides animation and besides Disney. And then when I started working at Disney, I quickly kind of fell into this like bubble
Yeah,
that feels like, well, you're protected because it's Disney. It's like
yeah.
you've got a salary and you're just
You are in a big family.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's not a family. It's a corporation.
yeah, corporation.
Yeah. And uh I living in Los Angeles and working there, I just started really kind of falling into that bubble and like, oh, this is and at Disney so many people stay there for decades and decades and decades, like 30 years. It's not uncommon for somebody to work there for 30, 40 years. And I started thinking like, oh, I guess this is what I'll be doing for the next 20 years. And then I was like, there was something that just I couldn't, I don't know. I just wanted more than that or something different. I and every summer I'd come back to Paris. Um, and I would see my friends working in different creative industries that they all went on to, and I started seeing like, oh, it was like my summer trips in Europe in the summer were were like a moment for me to open my eyes to there's more out there. There's more possibility. It's not just Disney. It's not just animation. It's not just these like 5 studios that that I need to like make my life around, but the world is so much bigger. And
Yeah, I know, because Disney is very comfortable, but is a bubble. So you risk to live in a movie, to live in another world, and missing everything is outside.
yeah, yeah, and I've been really, ever since I left Disney, I've been trying to find my way through, to figure out how to make my own way through the world without a big corporation, even though it's hard, especially in LA where you have like medical insurance to pay, and if you work in animation, then you're part of a union that pays that. But being on your own is a different thing.
Yeah.
But
So it's also a risk
it's a
to
risk.
live. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a risk. There's a reason why it's appealing to stay for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it was for me to have that long of a career in one place.
Yeah, I think for an artist it's very important to explore other kind of art, our kind of way to express your heart.
Yeah, I think that it's, well, for me, so I've continued working in animation, but I've continued also doing my children's books. And I've noticed that my relationship to the work that I do for animation studios has become a lot healthier. Like my, I can just detach a little bit, and like, it's fine if they want to change everything that I just did. Like, that's okay. Like, I'm not, that's not my only identity. My children's
Yeah,
books are a lot more important.
because you are more personal.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah,
personal. I have
yeah,
more creative autonomy, and I know that that is extremely important for me to have a platform to express myself in, and to kind of play around with these ideas. But the number one thing that keeps me from like fully entering into that space is just like my own management of time, and like
yeah,
uh, always prioritizing deadlines for other people's projects over my own. And I'm realizing that that is something that's it's such an important thing to kind of grab hold of and understand how to make what it is that I'm trying to do just as important, if not more important, than
yeah,
something a studio is asking.
yeah. I imagine the first Disney movie you worked in was Enchanted.
Well, it
No?
was actually Tangled.
Ah, okay, Tangled.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I worked on Tangled for 7 years. And then in the middle of it, like there were a lot of story changes. And when the story would change, then I would go on to like either Enchanted, or there was a short being done called Glago's Guest. There was also Wreck-It Ralph that was called Meet Joe
Yeah.
Jump. Or no, yeah, it was Joe Jump at that point.
And your father said in an interview that you are Rapunzel.
I guess so. Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
Um,
To, what is
well,
your
it's
feel?
funny because I actually, I understand it, because when I was doing the murals, when I was asked to do the murals, one of the it was like an excuse that I kept giving myself, but I think that it was true that I kept saying, well, I can't do the murals. I don't know who the character is, because they really hadn't figured out who she was yet. And they kept like trying to make this 18-year-old girl in her tower feel like a full character, but she never left the house. And so I was trying to figure out, like, well, what does she do trapped in her room all day besides brushing her hair, that I could relate to? Because I mean, there's times when I'll spend like a few days just like doing not necessarily anything in my house, and I'm just like, well, what does that look like? I mean, if I'm literally doing nothing, at least what are the poses? What does that look like? And so I decided to start carrying around a sketchbook with me and documenting my life on the days when I would just stay home and do nothing. And so I started like sketching whenever I was doing something. I'd stop and I'd sketch it. And I noticed, like, oh, okay, so I'm like putting clothes away, but I'm not just putting clothes away. I'm also like singing while I'm doing it. And so I would like sketch that, or like I'm like going to bed, and I'm journaling before going to bed in this Rapunzel journal. And so then I write, and then I draw Rapunzel like journaling before bed. And so that I kind of created this like this lens into her world that started getting me to feel like I believed in her, and that I felt like I knew her well enough that I could figure out what her paintings would be. And then I just had to get to work and design the murals. And so I looked at Charlie Harper's, the way that he put all those different illustrations together of this is Charlie Harper book.
Oh,
and
okay.
So you see how he has like all these different types of shapes or like elements, but they all feel so cohesive.
Yeah.
And we knew that for Rapunzel, we wanted her to have lots of different things on her walls, but I was like, how is that going to feel like one design? And so I got really inspired by the way that Charlie Harper had done that for his biological drawings, and just kind of looking at medieval manuscripts. And so I was inspired by those two things, and some sort of style came through for that.
Because nature and animals are very important in your work.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. Well, I guess in Rapunzel's it was because it was what she could see from her window. And so when my dad says that Rapunzel is me, I mean, I kind of I did do a deep dive. And then after the movie came out, somebody sent me a thing saying, have you ever done the Myers-Briggs test? It's a personality test. Like, have you? It's like ENFP, INFP,
okay,
all those things. Somebody on Facebook sent me something that's like, hey, Rapunzel took this test and she's an ENFP. I was like, what even is that? And so I searched it up, and I took the test myself, and it came out that I am an ENFP, just like Rapunzel. So I was like, oh, we really are the same.
So you are Rapunzel. And I was thinking about the bubble you talk before, and the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember making that correlation before, during the times of like feeling like I love this place so much, but I also want to be outside. I want to like Yeah.
It's incredible. Is the correlation between the two things.
Mm.
And how was the work with Frozen?
It was really fun. It was Chris Buck came to me uh, when he was pitching. He was pitching a few different ideas, and he was pitching the idea of doing the Snow Queen. And so I helped him come up with a pitch poster, and it was called the Snow Queen at that point. And then that was the one from his pitches. That was the one that got chosen to move forward. And then and so I helped develop some stuff for that with Mike Giamo, who is the production designer, and just developing a lot of what I did was kind of developing the characters' relationship as sisters, and how, like, who Elsa was versus who Anna was. But the version that I was on was a really different version than what came out in the movie, and
It's a dark version. Was a dark version. A little bit more dark than the movie.
No,
No?
well, it wasn't necessarily darker, but Elsa was darker. Elsa was not
Yeah.
as good as she is now. Like,
Okay.
she was more evil. And so we were kind of playing around with, like, how evil do we make Elsa? And then they went through huge story changes, and by that time I think I might have left the studio, or I had moved on to something else. But and then they came up with this new idea that I don't think that I was able to work on that much. But there was a time where I was working on the transition from how the sisters separated from in their relationship,
Okay.
from being really close in the beginning to later on when Elsa becomes antagonistic.
Yeah. And then separate, and after they was there was again sisters as the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you all the stuff that works on Frozen, you imagine that will should be the great success. Frozen is something incredible for the last 10 years. Elsa is a character that cancel most of the princess for the first 5 years after the movie.
So true. Yeah.
I saw the video on YouTube, and the girls was crazy at 2 years, 6 years, 15 years was incredible. And the fathers dressed like Elsa and they sings, the song of Elsa. So you imagine in during the production that was an incredible success.
No, I know. I had no idea. No, it was because at that point, we'd had some success with Tangled. And Tangled was the first movie that had done well after quite a few movies that hadn't done well. So, like, Tangled was a success for where the studio was at that point, but I had no idea where just how huge Frozen would be afterwards.
Yeah. Was I worked on Disney Store in that period, and was incredible. People was crazy for Frozen, but I still prefer Tangled. I still prefer Rapunzel. For me, there's something more deep something more. I feel more close in with the Rapunzel that with Elsa or Anna or other characters of Frozen. I don't know why, but for
Yeah,
me,
there's a lot of really relatable ideas in Tangled. Well, I mean, the idea of feeling trapped in something you love, in a world that you know and love, but also being driven by curiosity, but also perhaps your own destiny out in the world.
yeah. And the series, when the series arrived in television, I saw around me a lot of persons. What is this character design? It's totally different from the movie, but after the people was totally in the series and discover a new Rapunzel, a new way to tell the story of Rapunzel, the evolution of Rapunzel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris Sonnenberg led that, and I was really it was fun to kind of live in that world with Rapunzel again. It was like visiting an old friend.
Yeah. And it's a different Rapunzel. It's more the series is a little bit darker than the movie, and this is for me the most important thing of the series that makes the series totally different from the movie, but in a good way.
Yeah, they looked at a lot of the previous development work that had been done, and they got inspired from a lot of the stuff that we had done for Tangled, that had been thrown out in all of the different versions. We had so many different versions of Tangled, and there was one version that was very dark, and everybody really liked that version. And the people that made the series really liked that version, and so they pulled a lot of inspiration from the artwork that had been done for the darker version.
Yeah, it's a beautiful series and a beautiful product for me, for and for Disney, for me. After you left Disney, and you start to be just to be an author and illustrator for children books. And you said before that was a new life as artist, and now after the four books, 1, 2, 3, 4 books, you realize, no, 5.
I think it's 3 books that I've written, and then I've illustrated,
and the other just illustrator.
Yeah.
Okay. Also Paolo.
And Paolo.
The King of Rome.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, Paolo, written by Mac Barnett, and I illustrated all about little Paolo in Rome, which I feel like it needs to be turned into a TV series. This book is just so great. And actually, Little Wonder, I wrote last year. Oh, it came out last year. And Glifo Edizione is just coming out with it in next week. It's coming out in Italy.
I think the 3 of May, the 4th of May.
Yeah, 4th of May.
Exactly.
So it'll be in Italian bookstores.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to have one of my books in Italian.
And you came in Italy to promote?
No, I would love to. I would love. I'm so jealous of my book right now to be on Italian soil.
Okay. Last question. What are you are working in what now? Book illustration and if there is something is not secret, some project that it is not secret for.
Yeah, right now I'm doing some illustrations for a book by Beth Ferry about a little girl who has a very strange garden, and it's really fun to do. It's kind of like I'm illustrating it kind of like half graphic novel, half picture book. So because there's a lot of dialogue that's going back and forth, and so I just thought that it would be really fun to have these dialogues kind of be separate. And so that's been really fun to illustrate. And I'm also working on developing a graphic novel with a friend.
Wow.
Yeah, with my friend Alyssa Sussman, who is an author.
I hope will be translated in Italy.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
And so I've got a few other books that are coming out, and and also just trying to make space to dive into my next book and my next project of what it is that I'm going to make.
Okay. So thanks for your time. Sorry for my English. I don't use my English every day, so maybe
you were so good. I'm really surprised that this is your first interview, but if you were working at Disney, it makes sense that you speak English so well.
Yeah, but you know, in Italy, I don't use my English every day, so maybe I made some mistakes. Thank you so much for your time. Compliment for all your work, all your books, movies, and everything, and for all you tell us today about your life. Was very, very, very deep and very feeling of your sensibility about your work and your family. So thanks so much, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you so much.